الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope everyone is well. Jazakumullah khairan for joining our 14th lesson of our Surah course. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it beneficial for everyone and allow me to deliver it to the best of my ability. The last lesson we covered the night journey, Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, which took place in the month of Rajab. Now, currently, whilst this lesson is being recorded live, we are in the month of Rajab, 2 months before Ramadan. So the night journey that we spoke about did happen in this month, in the month of Rajab, one of the 4 sacred months, and a month where we start preparing for Ramadan, where we start doing good actions. So when Ramadan does enter in 60 days, we are used to performing good actions, and it's not something new to us. So we're in the month where this night journey happened. Just before moving on to our new lesson, from this journey, the Prophet did go meet different prophets in different heavens, but the main thing he got back was the 5 salah, the 5 daily salah. The question might arise that how did they know how to perform these 5 daily prayers? Today we have watches, we have clocks, right? We don't need to carry around a watch or a clock. We have it on our phones, the time. So we know when it's prayer time. Now, if we don't know it's a prayer time, we can get an app that will remind us. The adhan will go on our phone. We have people reminding us. We can hear the masjid doing the adhan. How did they know when to pray exactly? So what happened was Jibril alayhi salam, he came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for all the 5 daily prayers. The first time he came at the beginning time of all 5 daily prayers. So he would come at the beginning time for Dhuhr, then Asr, then Maghrib, then Isha, then Fajr. And he would show the Prophet how to pray. And the next day he would come at the end time of these 5 prayers. At that time, all the prayers were 2 units besides Maghrib. Maghrib was 3, everything else was 2. Later on, when the Prophet migrated to Medina, then Isha, Dhuhr and Asr became 4 units. But in the beginning, everything was 2 units. So the Prophet was taught by Jibreel how to pray. He was told at the beginning time of each prayer and at the end time of each prayer. So they knew when the beginning time was and when the end time was. So they had to pray between these 2 times. Now moving on to this lesson, inshallah, propagation to different tribes and persecution. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, after the incident of Ta'if and what had happened, he thought it may be best for him to stay in Mecca rather than asking for help to other tribes or the chiefs from other tribes. He thought, I will stay in Mecca and do da'wah in the days of Hajj. The reason why the days of Hajj was chosen is it was a time when Mecca used to get really busy. People would be coming to Mecca from all corners of the world, from all around the world. People would come from different countries, different cities, different continents, yes, different races, different people would come, and it was a time to give da'wah. It's a time to bring people towards Islam. So he chose the days of Hajj. So rather than him moving from city to city and him going from country to country to preach about Islam, he thought it's best he stays in Mecca where his people are so he can have protection. Because it didn't go well when he went to Ta'if. He just went with Zayd bin Haritha. It didn't go well. There was no protection. People were pelting him from head to toe. So the best way to give da'wah was to stay in Mecca and let the leaders from other tribes come for Hajj and he could give them da'wah. And you might think that why give them da'wah if they are already coming for Hajj? But these people were not coming to Hajj solely to worship Allah. They had idols to worship. Yes, in and around the Kaaba there were up to 360 idols. So people would come for Umrah, people would come for Hajj. Not like now. Nowadays only Muslims can go for Hajj and Umrah. No one else, no non-Muslim is allowed in the Haram. Okay, but before Muslims and non-Muslims will come for Hajj and Umrah because there were idols in and around the Kaaba. Some people will come to worship their idol, others will come to worship their idol. Some people will come to worship Allah. Okay, now this doesn't happen, but this was happening before. Hence why the Prophet thought in the days of Hajj, it's best to give da'wah. He would visit fairs as well. So they would have fairs for poetry. They would have fairs where people will come and there would be poetry, competitions. Okay, they would have fairs for many other things. Okay, maybe archery, okay, literature, and other things. So the Prophet would visit these fairs and he would try to preach. He would try to give da'wah because many people would get together in these festivals. Now, throughout whilst he was doing this, his uncle Abu Lahab would try his best, his utmost best to stop the Prophet da'wah. He would go behind the Prophet and everyone the Prophet spoke to, he would go back to these people and say, don't listen to the man who spoke to you, okay? He's a crazy man. He's my nephew. He's crazy. Whatever he said to you doesn't make no sense. So don't pay much attention to it. He was trying his best to stop the Prophet's da'wah. He was trying his best to stop Islam from growing. He was trying his best to stop the preaching of his nephew, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He continued to do that throughout. Even when the Prophet tried to get his family together to speak about prophethood, to speak about Allah, Abu Lahab told everyone, he's wasting our time. Let's go home. He laughed at the Prophet. Even when the Prophet went onto Mount Safa to call everyone towards Islam, Abu Lahab, he picked up a rock to throw at the Prophet and he said, is this why you gathered us? Okay? Destruction upon you. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he revealed the Surah Lahab. And you might think that the Quran is amazing because the Quran is so amazing, it doesn't fame or shame. So from all the Sahaba, the only Sahabi to be mentioned by name is Zayd bin Haritha, not Abu Bakr, not Umar, not Uthman, not Ali, no one else. So, so none of the 10 guaranteed Jannah, none of the 10 Sahaba, those who were guaranteed Jannah, they're not mentioned in the Quran. Zayd bin Haritha is. From the Prophet's enemies, from those who gave him a hard time, none of them are mentioned explicitly by name besides his uncle Abu Lahab. Like the Quran it doesn't have a quality of shaming people, but in this instance it did. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the news of Abu Lahab destined for Jahannam before he passed away. Because he tried many, many ways to stop his nephew from preaching and try to destroy Islam, Allah did give him a humiliating death. We won't go in detail into this, but for those who want to learn more about Abu Lahab and his death and everything, you can watch our video, our tafsir lesson on Surah Lahab, which we done like about 10 months ago. You can have a look at that. Abu Lahab, he did this. Allah gave him a humiliating death where he got a disease, and this disease led him to being isolated from his family members, from his friends and everyone. Everyone left him because this disease was contagious. People couldn't go next to him. So he's left alone for a week or so and he passed away. Even after passing away, no one could go visit him because of the stench and because of the disease. That they had to hire people to put rocks all over him and then to get rid of him. His real name was Abdul Uzza, okay, which literally means the servant of Uzza. Uzza was one of the goddesses, one of the idols they would worship, a female idol. This was Abu Lahab. And so Abu Lahab tried his utmost best to stop the Prophet from da'wah, and the persecution of the Prophet increased. As Abu Talib passed away, Khadija radiallahu anhu passed away, though they increased the hardship towards the Prophet. Okay, once the Prophet was praying salah, and they threw the insides of a camel, the intestines of a camel on top of the Prophet while he was prostrating, while he was doing sajda. So much that he couldn't lift his back up until his daughter had to come and remove these insides of the camel. Okay, they would strangle the Prophet. They tried many ways to punish and hurt the Prophet. The Prophet still stood firm. And as the days were going on, it was being more difficult for the Muslims to stay in Mecca and the Prophet. So it was a time where it was very difficult. So the days in Mecca were slowly coming to an end. And for moving and migrating was coming closer and closer. Which brings us to our next slide, which is the slide of Aws and Khazraj. So the Prophet, he went to different countries to migrate to the country and preach Islam. Okay, around six people from Khazraj, they came. Around six people from Khazraj, they came to the Prophet to speak to him. The Prophet spoke to him. The Prophet spoke to them, and they accepted Islam immediately. Khazraj was a tribe. They came from Yathrib. Yathrib today is known as Medina. At that time in Medina, okay, the Arabs were living and the Jews, okay, and the Arabs was split into two tribes, Aws and Khazraj. Yes. So at that time, Medina was known as Yathrib. Today it's known as Medina, Medinatul Munawwara. After the Prophet migrated to Yathrib, they changed the name to Medinatul Munawwara, the enlightened city. The word Medina literally in Arabic means city. So any city could be called Medina. London could be called Medina. New York could be called Medina. Right? Any city could be called Medina. Medina literally means city. But Medina is famously known as Medinatul Munawwara, the enlightened city, because the Prophet he migrated from Mecca to Medina and made Medina enlightened. Hence why they changed the name from Yathrib to Medina, Medinatul Munawwara. At that time it was called Medina. In Medina, the Arabs were living there and the Jews. The Arabs were split into two, the Aws and Khazraj. Six people from Khazraj, they came. The Prophet spoke to them, they accepted Islam straight away. Now you might ask, why did they accept Islam straight away? Because the Jews would always speak about the final messenger. So the Jews, they believed in the last prophet as they learned it from the book Torah. Torah, the book given to Prophet Musa. They kept on talking about the last prophet, how he would look, when he would come, and everything. So the Arabs were familiar with the last prophet because the Jews spoke about them so much that the Arabs kind of knew how he would look. They knew how he would speak, what time he would come, and everything. So because those six men of Khazraj, they learned about the last prophet so much, they accepted Islam straight away. Because everything made sense. If all the description given by the Jews, yes, it all came correct. So they thought, you know what, let's accept Islam. But the Jews, they thought that the final prophet would be born in their tribe. So the Jews thought that the final prophet would be born from amongst them. They didn't know that the prophet would come in. In the sense that the Jews thought that the final prophet would be born amongst them, from their progeny, from their descendants. They didn't know that a man who is the prophet would come in. So they were looking for a place where the final prophet would come. So described in the Torah, the Prophet would come in Medina. They were looking for that place and they found Medina, they found Yathrib, hence why they settled there. And they kept telling Aws and Khazraj that when the final prophet is born, we will tell him to make dua, we will tell him to make dua against you. Because Aws and Khazraj will keep fighting. We always continuously fight. We're not going to go into detail exactly who Aws is and who Khazraj is, but together now today they are called the Ansar. After they came up to an agreement and they settled, okay, they overlooked each other's shortcomings. Together they were called the Ansar. The Ansar are those who welcome the Prophet ﷺ and the Muhajirun, those who migrated from Mecca to Medina. They welcomed them into Medina and they gave their houses up, they gave their jobs up, okay? They made the Muslims from Mecca feel welcome. Those are the Ansar, the helpers. Ansar literally means the helpers. They helped the Muslims from Mecca when they migrated. So, you know, now when we leave one city to another city or a area to another area, a town to a town, we can take everything with us, right? We have vans, we have many different ways of transport where we can take our things with us. But back then, at that time, the only transport they had was camels. And they were too poor to have many camels, right? So most of them, they travel by foot. How can they take their belongings with them? They couldn't, right? They were traveling for months and months to go from Mecca to Medina. And so when they came to Medina, they literally had nothing, not a penny to the name. They left the houses back in Mecca. They left all the wealth back in Mecca. They left the jobs and everything they had back in Mecca. They had nothing to the name. They only had themselves. Hence why the Ansar, they welcomed them in and they gave them everything. They gave them jobs, they gave them money, gave them animals, they gave them what they wanted to. Now, if you go to Mecca and Medina, you will see the difference. That those in Medina are much more giving than those in Mecca. The people in Medina are much more giving because why? Because their ancestors, those in Medina, their ancestors, their great grandfathers were Ansar, so giving. When you go to Medina now, you will see that the people of Medina are much more kind-hearted, they are much more welcoming, they are more hospitable, that they look after the guests. Why? Because it has just come down and down. These qualities and characteristics from the Ansar, they gave it to their children and it went down and down until today. When you go to Medina, you will see there's a big difference. There's nothing wrong with the people of Makkah, yes, but the people of Medina have some qualities that the people of Makkah don't have or don't have much of. I've seen it, I've experienced it myself as well, that the people in Medina are so giving, okay, so helpful, always willing to help others, always willing to help guests. This is amazing sunnah as well, that when we have guests, we have to make sure we give as much as we can. Time, okay, make them feel welcomed as much as we can, okay. We shouldn't only be guests from people, we should also invite guests as well. When guests do come, we should try our most best, be hospitable, to give them and to make them feel happy, loved, welcome, and everything. So Ansar, they took the Muslims in. We're not exactly speaking about the migration as of yet. We're just talking about the Ansar. We're moving on to the migration. So the Prophet, he gave da'wah to these 6 men from Khazraj. They accepted Islam, and he told them, go back to Yathrib, go back to Medina, and teach those in Medina about Islam, and then you can come back to me and you can let me know what's going on, everything's okay. Now these 6 men from Khazraj, remember Khazraj was one of the tribes in Medina, or 2 tribes, Aws and Khazraj, and the Jews. Aws and Khazraj, like I said, they would always fight. These 6 men, they went and they came back the following year. This time there were 12 of them. There were 12 who had accepted Islam. 12 of them had come to the Prophet. From the 12, 10 were from Khazraj and 2 were from Aus. In the beginning, remember, 6 came from Khazraj. Now there's 12 altogether, 12 Muslims in Yathrib in Medina. Okay, 10 of them were Khazraj and 2 of them were Aus. So they came back 1 year later. This was roughly when the Prophet was about 52 years old, 12 years after revelation, just before one year before migrating to Medina. And they pledged, they met the Prophet in Aqabah, a place just outside of Mecca, and they said, look, O Prophet of Allah, we want to pledge, okay, that we will not fall into shirk, we will not commit shirk. Shirk is believing in anything other than Allah or ascribing partners with Allah, okay, which is known as polytheism, okay. So a person who believes in other gods or in other lords besides Allah, or ascribe partners with Allah, such a person will not be forgiven. Allah forgives all sins besides shirk, okay. So they said one point of the pledge was they will never fall into shirk, they will not commit shirk. Another point was they will not steal, whether publicly or privately, they will not steal from others, because before this was something common amongst the Arabs, they would just steal from each other. Another one was they will not kill children. It was something in the days of ignorance that they would kill the daughters off. They would think the daughters would bring a burden into their life, because sons can go to work, right? Sons can go earn livelihood for the family, whereas daughters would be a burden. They won't go to work. If they get a job, they won't get paid properly. When they get married, you have to pay for them, and it's just a big expense. That's how they thought of it. In the Ayyam al-Jahiliyyah, the days of ignorance, they would kill daughters off. There were some people that when the mother gave birth, the mother would give birth uh, uh, at the edge of a cliff. Okay, because they won't know the gender of the baby. Now we know the gender of the baby because of the scans and everything. At that time, they wouldn't know the gender of the baby, so the mother would give birth at the edge of the cliff. If it's a boy, they will take it. If it's a girl, they will just push the girl from the cliff, and the girl will die. That's what they would do. That's how ignorant and how corrupt they were. But they made a firm promise that they would not kill children anymore. Number four was, the fourth point was, they will not sin publicly or privately. Yes, they will not sin privately or publicly. Most people, they sin privately, not publicly. They don't sin publicly because people might see them. They sin privately, but Allah can see us whether we're sinning privately or sinning publicly. Remember, Allah can always see us. And the fifth point was, they said they will not fall into fornication, adultery. They wouldn't commit zina. So in the pledge, the five things they said was, we will not commit shirk, we will not ascribe partners with Allah, we will not steal, okay, we will not sin publicly or privately, we will not kill our children, and we will not do fornication. Prophet Islam, he agreed to that, told them the consequences if they break this pledge. And this pledge was purely for religious matters. This pledge was purely for religious matters. It had nothing to do with finance or anything. It was purely for religious matters. Nothing to do with finance, nothing to do regarding political matters. Later on, these 12 people, they went back to Yathrib. Before going so, they requested the Prophet ﷺ. They said, look, Muhammad, we now have 12 people. In 1 year, 6 people accepted Islam. However, we don't know much about Islam ourselves. Yes, we've only been a Muslim for a year. It would be best if you could send knowledgeable people with us who can teach and preach the people of Yathrib and Medina. You would have thought that the Prophet would have chosen the likes of Abu Bakr or Umar or Uthman or Hamza, those leading and those Sahaba who have a high status. No, the Prophet sent a young man named Mus'ab bin Umair. And he also sent Abdullah ibn Maktoum. Abdullah ibn Maktoum was a blind Sahabi. He's mentioned in the Surah number 80, Surah Abasa, where Allah says, Abasa wa tawalla. He knew and he memorized the Quran. So he went as one of those who will teach, help, and preach as well. The other was Mus'ab bin Umair. Now, Mus'ab bin Umair was a very knowledgeable man, hence why the Prophet sent him. And the Prophet's wisdom was amazing because the people of Medina were rich, okay, were giving. Mus'ab was the same. He came from a very rich family. So much that anything that came out new, if there was any new garment around, his parents would buy it for him immediately. So he had everything. When he would put fragrance on, when he would put perfume on, and he would walk past a place, you could smell that smell for a few hours. Even if you came after a few hours, you would smell it so nice that you would say that Mus'ab definitely walked past this place a few hours ago. So he was so rich, mashallah. His family was so rich. He came from a very rich family, but when he accepted Islam, his family, they disowned him. His mother, they chained him up. They took all his wealth and everything away. He made a very big sacrifice. He left their religion, he came to Islam, and he lost everything. So much that when he passed away and they were going to bury him, they didn't have enough clothing. He never had enough clothing to cover his body. When they covered his legs, his upper body would be showing. When they covered his upper body, his legs, his lower body would be showing. This was the same man, yes, who would wear new clothes every day, who would put new perfume on every day. He was so rich, but he traded all of that for Islam. Yes, he sacrificed all of that, all the worldly material for Islam, because he knew that Islam, yes, something that will help him in this life and the hereafter. The worldly gain, the worldly material will only help him in this life. This life is a temporary world. So for those brothers and sisters who just think about money, 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 and getting worldly material things and not thinking much about the hereafter, okay, think about Mus'ab bin Umair. Take him as a role model. Sacrifice everything, okay, because the hereafter is eternal, and this temporary world is temporary. One day we will pass away. When we pass away, who will take our money? We will pass on to our children. Who will take our cars? We will pass on to our children. Who will take our homes? We're too busy investing into our homes. We're too busy investing into our cars. We're too busy investing into our life. How much have we invested for the hereafter? Because this home we live in, maybe 30, 40, 50, 60. If you're lucky, 70 years you'll be there. But the grave, we'll be inside the grave for hundreds and hundreds of years. How much have we invested for that? We prepared so much for this world. Yes, we've got so much clothes. We've got so much food in our house that even if we don't go shopping for 1 year, we can still eat from the food we have. And we say the same for the preparation for the hereafter. And we say the same for the preparation for the grave. So we need to prepare for the grave as well as this world. I'm not saying we're not allowed to earn money. Yes, we have to earn money. Everyone loves money because you need to earn money to live on this earth. But remember the priority of this world, remember your priorities. Okay, we can't just think about the worldly material and the worldly gain. Okay, we're gonna get sucked up into this. Then we will know that soon our time will come to an end. When the angel of death comes, we will think, okay, what have we done for this world? What have we done for the hereafter? We've done everything for this earth, for this world, nothing for the hereafter. Mus'ab bin Umair was a knowledgeable man. He had memorized most of the Quran that was revealed at that time. The full Quran wasn't revealed. This we're talking about 12 years into the Prophet also, 12 years of revelation. Whatever Allah had revealed, most of it or all of it, he had memorized. He was really knowledgeable because he came from a rich family. So he was given good education from a young age. Okay, he spoke fluent Arabic. He was the first ambassador of Islam. And remember, he was the first Muslim to migrate from Mecca to Medina. Because the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba, they came later on. They came after 1 year. Mus'ab bin Umair and Abdullah bin Maktoum were the first to migrate from Mecca to Medina. They were the first Muslims to migrate from Mecca to Medina. He was the first Imam to lead Jumu'ah. He was the first Imam to lead Jumu'ah in Medina. Amazing. We can speak so much about Mus'ab bin Umair, but time does not allow us to do so. Think about the Ansar as well. We're going to mention a point that the Ansar, they are taking a huge risk by taking the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba in. It wasn't easy because they know that if they take the Sahaba and the Prophet in, they are getting their family under threat. They were told that think about what you are getting yourself into. Because due to getting the Prophet and the Sahaba in, your family could be under potential harm. Because those in Makkah can come after the Prophet and can harm the family of the Ansar. And the same thing applies today. And we shouldn't be surprised. The same thing happens today. Those who follow the Sunnah today will catch the attention of others. People will look at you in a funny way. You're keeping a long beard, okay? Or you're praying Salah at work. Imagine you're praying at work where everyone's a non-Muslim. You might feel shy. People might look at you the first day, the second day, the third day, but slowly everything will be okay. You decide to keep a beard, or you decide to wear a scarf, or you decide to wear the hijab, or you decide to wear the jubbah, or you decide to dress in the Islamic way. and people, your friends and those around you, might look at you in a funny way. Don't feel ashamed to follow the sunnah. Don't feel ashamed at all. These Ansar, they didn't care. They didn't think twice. They didn't care about the harms that could potentially happen if they brought the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba in. Why do we care about what people think about us? Why do we care that people will think that, oh, this person has a beard, okay? No one in the workplace has a beard. Or no one in the workplace wears a scarf. Why do we have to think twice? It's the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The minimum we can do while the Prophet ﷺ is not alive is to defend his sunnah. He has left this temporary world, but his sunnahs haven't. The minimum we can do is to defend his sunnah. We can never be like the Ansar. We can never protect the Prophet ﷺ like the Ansar did. Ansar, they opened the arms up and they welcomed him into Medina. They pledged to protect him. We can't protect him like that because he's not alive. But what we can protect is that we can preserve and protect his sunnah. If we stop doing it today, our children will also stop doing it. Soon, 100 years down the line, the sunnah would be slowly erased from this world because no one's practicing it. So we are part of this chain. We can either help in erasing it or we can help in protecting it. So think about it. Listen to that carefully again. We can help erasing the sunnah or we can help protecting the sunnah. We have to do what's in our responsibility. Our children, our spouses, our parents, our friends, our relatives, our neighbors, our colleagues, we should remind them about the sunnah. Try to make sure they hold firmly to the sunnah. Tell them to tell their progeny and their offspring to do the same. If we do that, until the day of judgment, inshallah, the sunnah will carry on. If we do the opposite, we start erasing the sunnah, we start cutting our beards, we start loosening our scarves, okay? Slowly, maybe 100, 200 years down the line, it could be that our offspring would have left Islam. It could be that because we've normalized it so much that we said you can loosen the scarf, you can cut the beard off, okay? You don't have to do all the prayers. Slowly, it's just going to get more watered down. Slowly, you'll see that there's no Muslims left in our offsprings. Everyone put a twist, everyone started bending the rules. You might think, oh, I'm not breaking the Islamic rules, I'm just bending it slightly. Slowly, because everyone bended the rules, there's no more Islam left in our offsprings. And it happens. There's many families like that I know, that many years of hard work from the ancestors, but today you see slowly Islam is being washed away from the families and the children slowly, there will be no Islam left. So think about that you want to help protect Islam and Sunnah in our family, not erase it. Ansar took a very big responsibility of protecting the Prophet Islam. Okay, it was difficult for them, definitely, because they could have brought potential harm to them. And they didn't think twice. They were more than happy. So the first pledge, 12 people came, and remember they agreed on these 5 things: no shirk, no stealing, no killing, no sinning publicly, and no fornication. And then after a few months, with the help of Allah, they came back again, this time 70 plus people. Some say there were 73 men and 2 women. Amazing, right? In the first year, only 6 accepted Islam. Now, over 60, close to 60 or over 60 extra accepted Islam. And they came to meet the Prophet again in Aqabah, and they pledged their allegiance with the Prophet that they will take care of the Prophet if he was to migrate to Medina. In our days, when we have to agree something, we have to write it down. We have to get the person to sign it. Imagine I'm selling something to someone, okay? Or I promise something to someone. You tell the person to sign it, document it, just in case you go against your promise or just in case you change your mind. At that time, it was just a handshake, a mere handshake. And imagine that. Just think, imagine the Sahaba and the Prophet, they migrated to Medina, and the Ansar, they changed their mind saying that you're not welcome here. We lied to you. Yes? We don't want to fulfill our promise. Imagine that. Muslims would have been stuck. They've left the homeland. Yes? The disbelievers, the Meccans are after them. They tried to go to Medina, and those in Medina, they don't want them. But at that time, yes, people were more honest. You could trust people. Today, this doesn't remain. Yes, because of that, we do have to take measures of signing documents and stuff like that, just to keep ourselves safe. Yes, just to keep ourselves safe, we have to. There's nothing wrong in documenting. If you do buy something, you want to do an agreement, do take a signature from the other party, just for your safety, just for yourself. Not because you don't trust the person, but nowadays we have to do such things. So over 70 people came from Yathrib. They met with the Prophet and they pledged. This was the second pledge. Okay, the first pledge was done when they said they won't do these 5 things. This was the second pledge. That confirmation that they will protect the Prophet and those who migrate, the Muhajirun, those who migrate to Medina. At that time in Medina, they wanted to appoint a man named Ibn Salul as the king of Medina. This man was a hypocrite. This man was the wrong person to give power to. This man was the wrong man to rule a city like Medina. So these people came and said, "O Prophet Muhammad, you need to come and we need to stop this man from taking the leadership of Medina." So the Prophet ﷺ, he advised Muslims to migrate to Medina. Only a Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr, Ali, radiallahu anhuma, and the helpless remained. So besides them, everyone else was told to start migrating to Medina. And you see, there's a verse in Surah Nisa, verse number 75, where Allah says, "What has happened to you that you do not fight in the way of Allah? And for the oppressed among men, women, and children who say, Our Lord, take us out from this town whose people are cruel, and make for us a supporter from your own, and make for us a helper from your own." This verse is amazing. It talks about the people of Makkah. Yes? We're making dua to Allah, "Oh Allah, take us away from this town because the people are cruel." The people in Makkah, yes, gave those mushrikeen, the disbelievers in Makkah, gave the Muslims hardship for 13 years. We are so soft. Someone gives us hardship for one day, yes, we lose it. Yes, we act like we're stressed. Yes, we give up. 13 years. Prophet, since he became a prophet from the age of 40 till the age of 53, for 13 years, those who accepted Islam, they went through hardship, persecution, disowning from their own family. Like we mentioned, 𝕂𝕕 bin Umair, he was disowned. Many, many stories like that. They sacrificed a lot to accept Islam. What about us? We are Muslim by chance. They became Muslim by choice. We are lucky that our parents were Muslims. We are lucky that our grandparents and our great-grandparents were Muslims. Hence why we were Muslims were lucky. We never had to make a choice to become a Muslim. We are Muslim by chance. These became Muslim by choice. Or those people nowadays who become Muslim by choice. I know some stories where brothers and sisters, they get disowned. Like last Ramadan, I was reading a story with this sister who, in the month of Ramadan, she's a very young sister, family weren't preparing her halal food for Ramadan, for iftar and suhoor. She had to do Eid by herself. Imagine that. Some brothers and sisters, they have to wake up early morning, they have to secretly do wudu and to pray salah. They have to secretly learn about Islam because the family don't know that they're Muslim. Because if the family knew that they became Muslim, the family would disown them. They're too young to be disowned. If they are disowned now, where will they go? Nowhere to go to. They're still in the teens, so they have to keep their parents happy by showing that they're not Muslim by just living a normal life. Secretly, they are Muslim. They would pray secretly in the room. They would learn about Islam secretly in the room. We don't have to do these things. Most of us, we don't have to because we were born in Muslim families. These Makkans, they had to take Islam by choice. When Islam was a minority, a handful of people were accepting Islam. They had to hide in Darul Arqam and learn about Islam, learn about the revelation and everything. We don't have to do that. We can walk to the masjid. Nothing would happen. We can walk with scarves outside in most of these cities and countries. Nothing would happen. All the sacrifice they've done to make Islam easy for me and you. So do use these names as role models rather than making role models of football players or celebrities or YouTubers. Okay, we should speak to our children, our family, our brothers, our sisters about these Sahaba. Those who gave everything for us, they are the real heroes, not the heroes we see today. Not Superman, not Batman, not Spider-Man. It should be these. Yes, they gave everything, okay, for us. I'll mention some stories before we finish this lesson. That Rambai said, now we're in the 13th year of after prophethood, so the Prophet about 53 years old. The Prophet hasn't left Makkah yet. He told his friend Abu Bakr not to leave yet. Ali hasn't left yet. The reason why Abu Bakr and Ali haven't left, we will speak about that in our next lesson. Because they both have two important duties. Prophet told Abu Bakr and Ali, don't leave because you have two very important duties. We will speak about that in our next lesson, inshallah. The helpless, those who are very poor, those who are very ill, they couldn't leave, they couldn't travel. Because from Mecca to Medina, now by car it takes 6 hours. Yes? By foot, with camel, it will take days or weeks or months. Who knows? They wouldn't manage to do that. It's helpless, the ill ones, the ill men and women. So they stayed. A family of Abu Salama, Salama, and Salama, they wanted to migrate. Abu Salama, Salama, and their child Salama, they wanted to migrate. Salama was taken by her family. So was Salama. So Abu Salama, he had to migrate alone. After some years, she and her son joined her husband. So a family, yes, they were separated because they were not allowed to migrate. They were separated. Imagine that. A father without his mother, a father without his wife, a son without his father. They were all separated. Suhaib Rumi wasn't allowed to travel to Medina. The Mushrikeen said, you made all your money in Mecca. All the money you made was in Mecca, so you cannot go. So Suhaib said, I'll give you all the money. Then they agreed. Imagine that. All his life, all his earnings, he had to give it away. He happily gave it away to go to Medina. That shows how much torture they went through. That they were happily giving every single penny away to leave this city where persecution and hardship and trials were taking place. They were more than happy to buy their own freedom. It's like they were slaves. They had to buy themselves out. So Suhaib had to pay every single penny to the Meccans. So they said, then you can go freely. All the Muslims, they migrated secretly after that, besides Umar. Umar, radiallahu anh, we know he was outspoken, he was brave. He told the people of Mecca, the leaders, to try to stop him. He said, if you want to stop me, I will be behind this mountain. Yes? I will be behind this mountain for 3 days. He was there behind the mountain with other Sahaba as well as his daughter. And he told the disbelievers, he told the leaders of Mecca, come. And he told their wives, tell your husband to come and fight me. I'll be behind the mountain. If they do come to fight me, I will turn you all into widows, meaning I will kill your husband off. He waited for a few days, no one came, so he took about up to 20 Sahaba with him and they went. The Prophet ﷺ, he didn't migrate. He was waiting for Allah's call. He was waiting for Allah's instruction, for Allah's permission. Because previously, our Prophet ﷺ's brother, our Prophet's brother Prophet, Yunus ﷺ, he migrated, he left. He left the city of Nineveh when they were not accepting his message. He left without the permission of Allah. And to Allah sent a storm, and he was swallowed up by a whale. He was in the whale's stomach for 40 days because he left the city without the permission of Allah. Hence why the Prophet ﷺ was waiting for the permission of Allah. He told the Sahaba and everyone else to leave because just waiting for days and days, it would be too difficult for everyone to leave together. It would be too difficult for everyone to leave together. The Quraysh, they held an important meeting to stop the Prophet ﷺ from migrating to Medina. This happened in 𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕤. The Quraysh, they held an important meeting. The last point before we finish this lesson, inshallah. The Quraysh, they held an important meeting in a place called 𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕤. Only the leaders were allowed to come to this place, to this meeting. Before they closed the door, an old man came in. A man that they couldn't recognize, they haven't seen before. And the man said, I know what you are doing, let me come in and help. And in the meeting, everyone was giving the suggestion that one man said, let's put Muhammad into prison. This old man said, no, that's not a good idea. Another man said, let's leave Muhammad in the middle of the desert without transport, without food, without drink. Eventually he'll die. Old man who came in, he said, no. And Abu Jahl then said, let's kill Muhammad, but we will use a young man from every tribe to wait outside Muhammad's house. When Muhammad comes out to pray, they will attack him in one go. So the blame will go towards every tribe. Because the Prophet's tribe, he cannot fight all the tribes. The old man, he liked this idea. Who was this old man? This old man was Iblis. Iblis came in the form of a man to give these leaders some ideas. So the idea was that a young man from every tribe will wait outside the Prophet's house. When the Prophet leaves, they will attack the Prophet all together. Now, the blame will not go to one tribe, it will go to several tribes because everyone attacked together, and the Prophet's tribe, the Quraysh, they can't do much about it because many tribes are involved now. We will leave it till there, inshallah. We will carry on from here in our next lesson. In this lesson, we covered how the Prophet was taught the timings of prayers, where Jibreel alayhi salam came at the beginning time of every prayer and at the end time of every prayer to show the Prophet from the beginning time to the end time, and that you can pray between these two times. Then we spoke about why the Prophet gave da'wah in the days of Hajj, why in the days of Hajj people would come from different countries, cities, tribes, because it wasn't a good idea for the Prophet. It wasn't safe for the Prophet to migrate or to move from city to city to preach, because when he went to Ta'if, he was pelted from head to toe. So it was more safe for him to stay in Mecca and in the protection of his tribe. And when the people would come for Hajj, just to worship the idols, he would preach. We spoke about Abu Lahab's attempts to stop da'wah from happening, his multiple attempts, and we spoke about his death as well. We spoke about Aws and Khazraj, how they would always be fighting, and the Jews were also, they settled in Medina because they saw Medina, Yathrib at the time, to be a place that was described in the books, in the Torah, book that was given to Musa alayhi salam. They thought that the Prophet would come from amongst them, from their progeny. However, the Prophet came from outside, from Mecca. Aws and Khazraj, later on, they became known as the Ansar. Ansar, the helpers, those who welcomed the Muhajirun, those who migrated, they welcomed them in. From the Aws and Khazraj, 6 men they accepted Islam from the Khazraj, and later on they came back a year later from 12. 10 were from Khazraj, 2 were from Aws, and they made a pledge with the Prophet, a pledge that was purely religious, okay, not political or financial. And when they agreed on 5 things, they said, we will not commit shirk, we will not ascribe partners with Allah or believe in anything says Allah. We will not steal, we will not kill our children, we will not sin publicly or privately, and we will not fornicate, we will not fall into zina, we will not fall into adultery or anything. This time they wanted to take scholars with them, and from them there were Abdullah ibn Maktoum, the blind Sahabi mentioned in Surah Abasa. There were 𝕂𝕙 ibn ℂ𝕠𝕕 as well, the first ambassador of Islam, and we spoke briefly about him. And slowly, through the help of Allah, Islam spread in Medina. In the next year, 70 plus came and they pledged allegiance at the hands of the Prophet, where they gave him full confirmation that you will be protected in Medina. And we spoke about how the Prophet ﷺ told everyone else to migrate, and how some Sahaba had to give everything up. They had to leave the family. They were separated from the family, but they had to go. Some had to leave the wealth, had to give every penny away, or the Quraysh weren't letting them go. Umar radiallahu anhu told them that, come fight me. Okay, I am waiting here to fight me. Fight me, I will wait behind the mountain, but no one came to fight him. The reason why the Prophet didn't take Abu Bakr and Ali with him, why? Because they both had very important duties to do. And lastly, we spoke about the meeting that was held, and everyone gave different suggestions, and they agreed that a young man from every tribe will attack the Prophet. They will wait outside the Prophet's house, and when he comes back to pray, the early morning prayer, they will attack him from all angles, from all directions, so no one will have to take the blame as many tribes were involved. We will leave it till then, inshallah. Does anyone have any questions? Any questions regarding the slides we covered? Okay, then inshallah, I'll see you next lesson. Salam